Hello and welcome to New Frontiers on CCTV International. I'm Ji Xiangjun in Beijing. And today we're continuing with our major series in which we are illustrating the evolution of Chinese civilization through an investigation of archaeological discoveries, historical sites, and cultural relics. Following the glory periods of the Han and Tang dynasties, China in the middle of the 10th century entered the Song Dynasty. Now, Song China is considered a golden age in the country's history. It was a time when China led the world in science and technology. The Song Dynasty also witnessed the emergence of numerous scholars whose expertise covered a remarkable number of fields.
After the glories of the Han and Tang dynasties, China entered the Song Dynasty, which lasted from the year 960 to the year 1279. The Song Dynasty is considered a high point in Chinese history, a time when China led the world in science and technology. The Song Dynasty saw the rise of numerous scholars in many fields, and through their efforts, science and technology in China reached a level that makes today's Chinese still feel proud. Under a beach in the city of Quanzhou in Fujian province, a well-preserved secret has been uncovered. A boat constructed during the Song Dynasty more than 700 years ago. With a length of 34 meters, this boat accommodated 3 masts and 13 sealed compartments, and it had a load capacity of over 200 tons. It is the oldest fully intact wooden boat unearthed in the world, but it was not the largest boat constructed in the Song Dynasty. By that time, the construction of very large boats with a length of over 100 meters and a load capacity of more than 1,000 tons was already taking place. While being used at sea, the compass not only greatly facilitated navigation in the Song Dynasty, but also played an important role in another remarkable achievement in the history of human civilization, the maritime Silk Road. The unearthing of this ship reveals clearly the hermetic compartment sealing techniques used in the Song Dynasty. Experts have concluded that this invention was a miracle in the world history of boat construction, one that made safe navigation possible. It is an irrefutable fact that the hermetic compartment technique developed in the Song Dynasty is still in use in the modern shipbuilding industry. In ancient China, today's city of Quanzhou went by the name Port Zitung, and the prosperous sea trade of the Song Dynasty made Quanzhou world famous. At that time, many foreigners traveled to the city, and some of them came just to visit a bridge called Wan'an Bridge. Wan'an Bridge was the oldest bridge in the world even then, and it was the longest stone bridge over water. The bridge was about 1,200 meters long and 5 meters wide and boasted 47 span openings. Construction began on Wan'an Bridge in the 5th year of the Huang You reign, the year AD 1053, and it took 6 years to complete. In the world history of bridge construction, Wan'an Bridge was the first to use ship-like stone piers that were sharp-edged on both sides. But how were these megaliths raised at such a time without advanced equipment? After research, experts have discovered that the ancient Chinese laid stone piers when the tide was low and used the liquid secreted by oysters to bind the piers and footstones together. Wan'an Bridge is another miracle in the history of the Chinese nation. During the Song dynasty, Quanzhou developed into a seaport known far and wide. Together with the port of Alexandria in Egypt, Quanzhou was regarded as one of the two largest trade ports in the world.
宋代的海外贸易一个很重要的港口是福建的泉州港。福建泉州港当时跟海外很多地区都有联系。东边呢是朝鲜半岛、日本列岛，西边一直到印度洋地区，到波斯湾，到阿拉伯半岛，到非洲的最远可以到非洲东北部。这个当时把印度洋地区就叫西洋。后来为什么我们把镇叫做镇湖下西洋呢？这个起源就是从宋代开始，我们就把印度洋地区叫西洋的缘故。当时海外贸易进出口的物资呢，主要是我们国内出口的东西，主要是两样，一样是丝绸，一样是瓷器。
Some scholars assert that porcelain should be regarded as the fifth great invention of ancient China. From the point of view of porcelain experts, the porcelain produced in the Song dynasty is of the highest quality. In the course of underwater archaeological excavations carried out over the last 2 decades of the 20th century, Song dynasty porcelain that had been on the seabed for nearly 1,000 years was brought to the surface. These porcelain pieces provide us with an opportunity to revisit the history of that time. Porcelain produced in the Duan kiln is elegant in form and unsurpassed in its use of bright-coloured glazes, but only a few examples survive. White porcelain produced in the Ding kiln was for the exclusive use of the imperial family of the northern Song dynasty. The Ru kiln that followed also produced porcelain for imperial use, and today less than 100 examples remain. However, among all the ancient porcelain kilns, the most famous was the imperial kiln in the town of Jingdejian in Jiangxi province. According to ancient records, on the southern bank of the Changhe River, there was a town called Changnan, where highly desirable porcelain was produced for export. Changnan is in fact Jingdejian, simply renamed to reflect the reign title of Song dynasty Emperor Zhenzong. Porcelain objects produced in Jingdejian at that time were greatly loved by Zhenzong, and from then on Jingdejian became famous all over the country, and its original name Changnan was forgotten. Today, even a person with only a vague passing knowledge of porcelain knows the name Jingdejian, as the porcelain produced in the town during the Song dynasty made China famous throughout the world.
It wasn't just the porcelain produced at Jingdejian that made China famous worldwide during the Song dynasty. Another major achievement was movable type printing, invented by a man named Bi Sheng.
沈括的《梦溪笔谈》是我们国家在科技史上一部非常辉煌的名著，它记录了宋代很多在自然科学方面的成就，其中包括对石油的认识，对这个沧海桑田这种地质变化的认识。那其中最重要的就是沈括在这个书里边记录了宋代一个叫毕生的人，他发明活字印刷术的情况。在《梦溪笔谈》里比较详细的记述了活字印刷术的整个的过程和印刷方法。
From that monumental work in the history of Chinese science, Dream Pool Essays, we can take note of discoveries, inventions and creations that Shen Kuo and other men of ancient China came up with during their scientific and technical explorations. Several hundred years later, the artisan Bi Sheng described in this book still has the power to astonish.
原来有些人不太相信用泥能够来印刷这个活字，包括这个胡适先生也曾经怀疑这个泥活字能不能印书。
南宋有一位宰相叫周必大，他在做朝官的过程当中放了一个外任，就给放到哪儿去？放到长沙，那会儿叫潭州，到那儿去做官。他就在那儿利用了这个 沈括《梦溪笔谈》卷18这段记载，照着这段记载，他就制造出来了泥活字。
Shen Kuo was the only person to record in book form that the invention of movable type printing is attributable to Bi Sheng. Nowadays, it would be said that Bi Sheng was simply an engraving worker, but perhaps it is fitting that an engraving worker would have such an impact on the development of ancient Chinese scientific invention and technological innovation. Papermaking, one of the 4 great inventions of ancient China, had been developed earlier in the Western Han Dynasty some 2,000 years ago. However, the paper made at that time was primitive, was loose in texture, and was not particularly ideal for writing. However, during the Yuanqing reign of the Eastern Han Dynasty not long afterwards, Cai Luan greatly improved papermaking techniques. Before that time, Chinese characters were engraved on pottery, animal bones, articles of bronze, and bamboo slips. But the use of these items as writing media resulted in the loss of many important historic documents. Thanks to the invention of Tai-Ho paper by Cai Luan, the diffusion of Chinese civilization underwent a fundamental innovation. The spread of papermaking to lands outside China brought about an epoch-making revolution in the development of writing materials and completely changed the way people wrote. The age of paper in the history of human civilization began in China. Although papermaking was not invented during the Song Dynasty, papermaking techniques were developed to a high level in the Song Dynasty. The Song era saw the appearance of bamboo paper, which was smooth, ink-absorbent, and highly suited to writing. After having tested bamboo paper, the famous man of letters Su Dongpo exclaimed that he felt much luckier than his ancestors. Song-era books were printed in large numbers.